joined live by Heidi, back again from last year. She did many sessions with us. So she's at Boise State University's Intermountain Bird Observatory, and she's going to take us a little tour of their songbird banding work. So she's literally in the middle of the field today. So if there's some tech issues, don't worry about it too much. She'll come back in a second, but we're going to dive in with some fantastic songbirds. So thank you so much for joining us, Heidi, and take it away.
All right, I'm unmuted. So good morning, guys. So we're up here in the mountains above Boise, Idaho today, and we have some birds. So I think I might jump in and switch my camera over so that you guys can see our team of scientists as they measure and band some birds. And then maybe once we let these birds go, I can tell you guys a little bit more about what we're doing and why we're catching them. So let me see. Oh, I haven't practiced switching my camera over. How do I do this? Here we go. Here we go. So you guys can see this is our banding station. We have a whole crew of scientists this morning from all around the country, actually. And we'll walk in closer and see they're putting some banding birds. And I think Emily, should we show off your bird first, Emily?
I have a ruby-crowned kinglet.
Awesome.
So she's, I'm saying a she. I don't know if they can respond.
But they're muted, but
okay. You guys can guess among yourselves why she's a she if the name is ruby-crowned kinglet. So some of them have a ruby crown.
Yeah, so we can tell she's a girl because she doesn't have this little ruby crown. Kinglets are one of the smallest songbirds that we catch up here. They weigh about 6 grams, which is about as much as 6 M&Ms. So they're very, very small. And Emily has already put a little band on this bird's leg. Let's see, there you go. You can see her little band. So it fits kind of like a bracelet on her leg. It has a 9-digit number, so that identifies her. If we ever catch her again, we'll be able to read that number and say, oh yeah, I remember you. You're number 452. We caught you last year. So that's our hope, is that we get to see her again or that another scientist gets to see her again. So should we let her go, Emily? All right. You guys will get to watch her fly away. Okay, ready? Here she goes. Oh, that was fast. Cool. All right. Let's go see what other birds we have. So it looks like, Eric, are you done processing your bird? Nice. So Eric here has a Assen's finch. Is it a young?
An adult female.
Oh, nice.
Has a molting feather right there.
Nice. Cool. So you guys, yeah, finches are feisty, so they have really strong beaks for eating seeds. And so sometimes that means they like to nibble scientists' fingers while we're banding them too. Can you spread that wing again, Eric? So this female is growing a new feather. Do you guys all see that new feather growing in? So just like you guys are losing your baby teeth and growing in adult teeth, she is losing feathers and replacing them one by one in her wing. So she can replace her feathers and still be able to fly because she only grows a few at a time. So anything else you want to show us on her, or she's ready to fly off? Oh yeah, nice. So here's a little pin feather. So you can see this little pin, this little fuzzy spot. Hopefully the video's working. That dark spot is where the feather grows. It's like a flower bud. So the feather is blooming out of that pin as the feather is growing longer and longer. All right, so let's see. You ready to let her fly? Let's see what she does. There she goes. Cool. All right, do we have one more bird and then I can... All right, we'll check out another kinglet. Is it... Oh, sure, yeah. So we'll follow, this is our other side's Matt. We'll follow him. We weigh these birds in little canisters, little tubes. We stick them upside down head first. They've never been upside down in their life before. 5.8 grams. All right. And then we take them right back out of the tube. And
feather on your beak.
nice.
There you go.
Cool. And weighing them is the last thing we do. So she is ready to fly after this. Okay, ready? Oh, look at that. Hey, lady. So here's our little kinglet. She hasn't realized she's free to go yet. We'll give her a little poof of air. Nice.
There we go.
There we go. All right. So that was our last bird for the moment. So I'll switch the camera around. Hi, guys. So I can tell you guys a little bit about what we're doing. So this morning we have 10 nets set up in the forest around us. So you guys can see the forest behind me. And we're catching birds as part of some scientific monitoring that we're doing. So we're tracking these birds and their numbers to see how their populations are doing. And we're looking for differences between years. And that can give us important data to help us conserve these bird species. So today we're catching a lot of birds that are migrating. So birds are flying south in winter. They might not go that far south, so some of these birds will actually stay in Idaho for the winter. And we do get snow and cold in the wintertime, so they're tough little birds. But some of them will go really far south. Some of them might end up in even as far south as Mexico. So one of the reasons we're tagging these birds is so that we can track them and figure out where they're going. You guys saw that tiny, tiny little band on those birds' legs. So, and I'll show you guys a band real quick so you guys can see it up close. There's a little number on those bands so that if another scientist catches our bird, here's the bands, I don't know if it'll focus, but there's tiny little numbers stamped on those bands. So if another scientist catches our bird, or if somebody finds our bird, maybe it bumped into a window and it's stunned, they can read that number and know exactly what bird it is and where it came from. So that can teach us a lot of things. It can teach us how old the birds can live to be. So some of these tiny little songbirds, even as small as that ruby-crowned kinglet, can live even up to 15 or 16 years old. So pretty amazing lifespans for these tiny little birds. Another important thing we're looking at is the ages of the birds. So in some years, we catch a lot of babies. So we catch a lot of birds that are young. We know they were hatched this summer. And that gives us a lot of information about how the nesting season went. So did they have a lot of babies? Was it a good summer? They laid a lot of eggs? Or was it a cold spring? Maybe they didn't lay as many eggs. And maybe they didn't have as many babies this year. So we can look at a variety of things and sort of piece the story together. So what's happening with these birds? And as scientists, once we know what's happening, hopefully we can make some decisions to help those birds out. So contribute to conservation based on the data that we've collected. So maybe I'll walk with you guys. So we check the nets every half hour. So maybe I'll walk with you guys, take you guys up to see a net and see how we catch the birds. So I hope you don't get seasick. We'll walk through the forest a little bit. So this site, one of the reasons we work at this site is it has a lot of really good habitat, and migrating birds need good habitat because they need to fatten up. So birds, when they're migrating, they can't pack a lunchbox, they can't pack a cooler to bring food with them. So instead, they stop in places where there's lots of food, they get really, really fat, and then they may fly hundreds or even 1,000 miles a night to get to their next stop. So this site up here has really great habitat where birds are able to get fat. And I'll show you guys, I'll find some cherries to show you guys. One of the favorite foods of the birds right now is a plant called bitter cherry. And it doesn't taste very good to humans, it tastes really bitter, but the birds love it and it has a lot of sugar so they can get fat very quickly. You guys can see it's kind of chilly this morning. It's below freezing. We just got our first frost of the year last night, I guess, or the night before. So let's see. Here's some dried out cherries. So right here, and there's our little cherry shrub. So the plants around here are absolutely loaded with cherries and other food right now. Also the conifer trees, all the pine trees behind us. We have Douglas fir trees. So a lot of these bird species might be actually eating the seeds from all those different conifer trees as well. All right, we're almost to a net. So We have 10 nets set up to catch these birds. And I don't see a bird, but I'll show you guys the net. They're called mist nets because they're very fine, like mist. So let's see if I can show you. So here's our net. You can barely see the mesh on that net. And so this net, as the birds are flying through the bushes, they can't see it very well. And so as they go along, they run into the net and it forms a little pocket down here. So when it makes a pocket, the birds sit in that pocket like it's a little hammock. And so that allows us to come along every once in a while. We can take the bird out of that pocket and take it back to our banding station like you guys saw before. So maybe I'll walk to one more net with you guys, and then we'll head back to the banding station to see if our scientists caught any more birds. And Jesse, I'm not keeping very good track of time, so let me know when it's time to do questions or. All right, cool.
It's fantastic.
Go to this next net. And maybe I'll flip the camera around here in a second and show you guys the view. Our site is along a ridge in the mountains, and it goes north-south. And that's really important because during fall migration, birds are moving from the north to the south. So they can follow this ridge, and it allows them to stay in some nice high mountain forest habitat. And let's see. No birds in this net. So I'll switch you guys around so you can see the net, and then we'll go take a view of some mountains. All right, so here's our long net stretched out, and no birds in it. Did you get any birds, Emily? Nice. All right. So Emily has a bird in a bag, so we carry them in soft mesh bags, cloth bags, and that allows them to wiggle around as much as they want, and they can move around freely. There you go. So once we check out the view, we'll follow Emily back to the banding station and see what she caught. I did check 10. Yeah, there wasn't anything. Yeah, cool. All right, so I'm gonna take you guys up this view. All right. So this is the view north of us. And you guys can see, I'll try to point here. So here are the really tall mountains, and there's forest up here. And that forest has all those cherry shrubs, just like you guys saw on this mountain. And then down here in the valley, this is Boise, and it's more of a desert. We only get about 13 inches of rain a year. So you can see it's very dry in the foothills. And then all of a sudden you switch to this really beautiful, lush forest habitat with all those cherry shrubs. It's moving from the north here. They're following the ridge, they're coming to us. And then after they get nice and fat, they have lots of energy, then they keep going and they fly farther south. So it's a beautiful morning up here. We're a little bit later, I think, than most, earlier than most of you guys. So it's just a little bit after sunrise here. It's 8:40. Our sun rose at 7:40 this morning. So, all right. Give you a nice panoramic view, and then we'll take you guys down the road. So maybe I'll walk like this and just talk to you guys so you guys can see the nice habitat around us. So all of these green shrubs with the leaves kind of turning yellow, those are all our cherry shrubs with lots of fruit for our birds. So they really like it. This habitat, we have a really good mix. Oh, there's actually a little junco flying along with us right here. I don't know if you guys can hear the little tinkling little tink, 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 tink. That's the junco call. There's lots of juncos down here today. But our habitat is a mix. So we have dry sagebrush here. We have the cherry shrub, and then we have the Douglas fir forest. 3 different habitat types. So pretty much any bird that arrives here has that that they can use to find food. So no matter where they're from, there's something here for everybody. So it gives us a really good community of songbirds. We usually catch around 60 species a year. And we're walking back to camp, so I'll show you guys. We have a crew of 12 scientists who live up here. No running water. They have to bring all their water up to the mountain every week. We have just a little pit toilet and that's it. So they're roughing it up here, but it's a pretty cool life. So we have, you can see our big kitchen tent right here where everybody comes and cooks their breakfast. And everybody sleeps up on the hillside. You guys can see all the cars from our crew. So everybody sleeps up here. They're about an hour from any city or electricity or running water. You can see all our firewood stocked up for the winter since it's getting really cold right now. So it's a pretty cool life up here. Biologists living on the top of a mountain. All right, so I'm gonna switch you guys. Oh, maybe I'll leave you guys. So we're almost to the banding station. This here's our banding station. And we'll go see what Emily's up to, see if she's banding that bird. And find out what she caught.
Super cool.
And maybe other scientists came back from the other net runs with birds too. So we have 10 nets and we split up in kind of 3 groups to check them. All right. Hey team. Oh, really? Nice. So Carter here is one of our scientists. He's a freshman, right, at Boise State University. And he is right now measuring the wing on a really cool bird called a Townsend solitaire. So they're very gray. And they're another fruit eater. So they live up here and really go after those cherry fruits. So Carter just started training with us this year, actually. So learning all about banding birds. And 113, so that's 113 millimeters on this wing. So you guys can see our data here, and we're recording all kinds of different information about these birds. Of course, we're recording their species, so this is a Townsend solitaire. We're going to take a careful look at it and tell what age it is. And then we'll look at all these other characteristics, including that fat that I was telling you guys about. So you can see on this page, we have a lot of migrating birds. So we have a lot of birds with high fat of a 4 and a 3. So their gas tanks are getting full, ready for migration. 99 tail. They have very long tails. And this solitaire, you can see its band number, so number 498. No other solitaire in the world will have that band number. So one thing we do, so you can see Carter blowing on the belly of this bird. And here's Emily, what did you get? You got a junco? Nice. So this junco has a little pink beak. One thing we do is we blow on their bellies to see their fat. So you can actually see through their skin when you part their feathers out of the way, and you can see orange fat if they're really fat, and you can see kind of reddish purple chest muscle. So maybe we'll see how fat Emily's bird is, and maybe we'll get to take a look at some fat on a bird here in a minute. They pooped a berry? Oh, nice. So, so this solitaire was in the middle of eating a berry, or this bitter cherry, when we caught it. So it spit the cherry up when we caught it. So that's pretty funny. It looks like a pretty nice berry, huh? Nice and juicy. So this berry has tons of calories for this bird so that it can get nice and fat for its migration. So I'll zoom in while Emily measures the wing on this junco. You guys can see the wing ruler there. And scientists, of course, we use the metric system, so we're measuring the wing in millimeters. And we're also measuring the tail. And dark-eyed juncos are one of the species we're catching a lot of right now. They're a seed-eating species, so they can stay a little bit longer in Idaho where it's cold compared to our species that eat insects. So yeah, you guys can see we have a nice big team up here this morning. And Carter is also taking a look at their head. So one thing we can do on songbirds is we can look at their skull to tell how old they are. like human babies, when we're born, we're actually born with a little soft spot in our head where our skull isn't fully formed. And our birds are the same way. So they're born with one layer of skull, and then they grow a second layer as they get older. So we can actually look through their skin and see their skull. And if it's very white, we can tell that it's an adult. And if we can see pink color, that is actually the thin portion of the skull where we can look through the skull and actually see the color of their brain. So pretty crazy that we can actually see that. So that lets us tell how old they are. A lot of our birds right now are what's called hatch year birds. So they were born in the summertime. So they're probably 3 or 4 months old at this point. But already independent, already grown up and away from their parents, which is pretty cool. So I'm gonna go see if Emily is done collecting her data. Maybe we can take a look at the fat on this junco.
Perfect.
Emily, does your junco have any fat?
So we're trying to decide if it's a boy or a girl. And so
Cool.
the girl's usually really gray and brown, and the boy's really dark. This is a young bird, and I'm
It's
not
kind of
totally sure.
in between, huh?
Yeah.
What's your wing?
70.
That's pretty
That's
short,
pretty
huh?
short.
Yeah.
So
So-
girls are shorter than
Yeah.
shorter wing usually.
Yeah, so in songbirds, females are smaller than males. And in juncos, females have a grayer head. This one. Combined with so that's so that's our guess for her. You can see Junk's got nice little pink beak, so that's one way you can tell Junks. And those are probably a species that most of you guys this call actually have in your home. So they're pretty widespread species that lives all over North America. All right, so we'll let Emily finish processing her bird and then we'll see if it's fat.